Good evening, everyone, and welcome inside the bubble. It was another wild week of high school hockey. I'm joined by Matt Harrington, and Matt, wow, another incredible week.
Yeah, I mean, we just had some great games, including Wayzata Hill Murray on the boys' side. We'll get to that later, but I mean, I had the chance to call some really good ones this week. I know you did as well, so it's been just another terrific week, and we're really in the swing of things now.
We are. The periods between Thanksgiving and Christmas seem to be just jam-packed with games, and we will get things started out at the St. Croix Valley Rec Center, White Bear Lake taking on Stillwater. We send it out to the St. Croix Valley Rec Center with Blake Mortensen on the call for this big Suburban East battle. Joel Belisle from a sharp angle squeezes it in, and the Bears lead with 10 seconds to go in the first period. We take it into the second. Riley Scusa buries one for Stillwater. The lights go down, the teddy bear toss begins, and Stillwater ties this game at 1. Some big chances later in the period as well for the Ponies, but White Bear Lake goaltender Leo Gabriel up to the challenge. That was Scusa bidding for a second goal. And then look at this save from Gabriel as he gets across to the right. Oh, what a chance for the Ponies to take the lead, but we remain tied at 1. Into the third, though. Stillwater, good feed there from Spets to find Kyle Einen, who buries it. Ponies take a 2-1 lead, and that is how this one would finish. Ponies have won 3 straight after losing their season opener.
We go now to a Section 8 AA matchup up north between the Moorhead Spuds and the Roseau Rams. We picked this up midway through the second, scoreless until our first goal of the game from Colby Creer, who gets the opening goal, finally the first one of the game. Early in the third now, Roseau looking for the equalizer. They get it with the wrist shot here from Gavin Jensen. The Rams right back in this game. About 90 seconds later, though, this was the start of an onslaught from the Spuds. Parker Gast giving his team the 2-1 lead. 52 seconds later, Garrett Lindbergh cashes in at the back door, and all of a sudden, the Spuds now have a 2-goal lead, their largest of the game so far. Spuds on the power play now. Check out this pass from Mason Kraft. Cross ice for Aaron Ryerson. Absolutely beautiful to put it home. And it's 4-1 Spuds, but the scoring not done yet for Moorhead as Parker Gast getting the big rebound here to put it home. And that would do it. The Moorhead Spuds now 5-1 winners. These teams will meet again later in January.
We send it out to the Plymouth Ice Center. Minneapolis taking on Providence Academy in Section 2 AA battle. This is first period action. Louis Wayman on the power play buries it top shelf, has the celly as well. We're tied at 1. Minneapolis still fights right back as Cody Kelker pokes home a rebound, his first of the season, and Minneapolis leads 2-1 after 1. This is early in the second. Wayman again, look at the toe drag. Beautiful feed, and Brandon Sattler, just trickles over the line to tie the game at 2. Later, Providence fends off a 4-on-1, and it's Wayman in transition. He's going to take it in alone and bury his second to make it 3-2 Providence. Then later in the period, Johnny Hendrickson taps it ahead to Wayman. Wayman with a sweet finish in front. He completes his hat trick, and that was already his 12th goal of the season in the Lions' 4th game. This just seconds later, Johnny Hendrickson, actually 9 seconds later, made it 5-2 Providence, and then off the ensuing faceoff, Hendrickson is going to have 3 goals in 19 seconds to make it 6-2 Lions. Later in the period, Minneapolis gets one back at 6-3. Wayman, though, he had other ideas. He has his 4th shorthanded. Providence defeats Minneapolis 7-3.
We go now out to Andover, Benilde St. Margaret's in Andover. The Red Knights in their 2nd game of the year, first on the road. Late in the first period, here's a great opportunity and a goal put home by Drew Stewart. Red Knights go up 1-0. In the second now, on the power play are the Red Knights. Check out this wrist shot from Michael Risto. Beautiful go-ahead goal, the second goal to make it 2-0 Red Knights. Getting to the late stages of the third now, and once again, Drew Stewart cashing in on the rebound. Red Knights win this one 3-0, and perhaps a statement win for Benilde St. Margaret's.
We send you right back out to Andover as Rogers and Andover play in a big Northwest Suburban game. First period, great feed, and Mason Jensen with the finish from Parker to Shane. That was actually in the second period to make it 1-0 Rogers. Then later in the frame, Rogers again with numbers. They get players to the net, and it's Carson Melquist eventually able to bury it. Goaltender for Andover, Bo Altman, had no idea where the puck was, and Melquist takes advantage. Later in the second, Gavin Thorson from behind the net off the backside of the Rogers defender, and Andover gets the bounce to cut it to 2-1. However, that is how things would stand. Nolan Geertis, an empty netter for Rogers, who wins 3-1.
We go now out to the Plymouth Ice Center, another top 10 battle in boys class AA between Wayzata and Hill Murray, because that's what we do here at the MNHockey.tv. Late in the first period, scoreless in this one. Check out this wild sequence in front. Goaltender Ingeman had no idea where it was for a moment, but he puts the glove on it to make a nice save, and it somehow stays out. A few minutes later now in the first, a turnover behind the net, and Cade D. St. Hubert taking advantage of it, puts it home on the backhand. Trojans up 1-0 late in the first period. We go now midway to the second period as the Trojans on the power play, and Hill Murray goaltender Jack Erickson squeezing the pillows tight to keep this one out. It was just inches away from going in, but a great save. It's still 1-0. Now, later in the second period, final 2 minutes of play, a breakaway, but once again, Ingeman the save, denying the Pioneers the opportunity. He stands tall. Late in the second here as well, midway through the third. Bad bouts out front, and Erickson has to make a couple of brilliant saves. He still keeps this game at 1-0. Final minute of play now in the third. The Pioneers desperate to tie it, and they do. Brady Ingebrigtsen takes advantage of the chaos in front, and finally Hill Murray on the board very late in this game. We go to overtime, 3:10 to go. Wayzata trying to win it. Backhander Erickson loses it. It goes in, but the whistle had already been blown. Wayzata thinks they've scored. Not the case. We're going to keep playing on in this one here late in overtime, but it didn't matter for the Trojans as they would score the game winner anyway. Reese Wallen, his hard work pays off in front of the net, and the Trojans win perhaps the game of the year so far. 2-1 winners in overtime. Well, this was an absolutely incredible environment at the Plymouth Ice Center Thursday night. Pretty much a sold-out house, not many seats available, and both teams giving it their all out on the ice. I think there's a very good chance that we could see these two teams at the XL Energy Center in March. Of course, the Pioneers and Wayzata perhaps favorites in their respective sections, but the atmosphere incredible. We've had a lot of those games already here on MNHockey.tv, and we hope that the viewers enjoyed it as well. Trojans move to 4-0 on the year. We're going to come back with the girls' highlights after we take a quick break. Stick with us.
Your college experience begins with your dream. Your time at St. Cloud State will uniquely be your own, but your journey will be guided by our community. Be you. Be bold. Be a Husky.
Behind every world-class athlete, there's a team who takes extra care to support them. At Affinity Plus, we take extra care with all your banking goals, from checking accounts to credit cards. Our biggest victory? Helping you win in the ways that matter most. Affinity Plus.
Your college experience begins with your dream. Your time at St. Cloud State will uniquely be your own, but your journey will be guided by our community. Be you. Be bold. Be a Husky.
What if there was a place where everything was hockey?
Oh, he can skate. Here comes Steves in on goal, all alone.
In Minnesota, there is.
Scores!
Welcome back to Inside the Bubble here on KARE 11 Plus. We had some great boys highlights for you earlier, as you just saw. We also had some great action on the girls' side as well, as we'll take a look at some of the highlights now. We go out to the Minnetonka Ice Arena here for Chaska Chanhassen and Hopkins Park. Late in the first period, already 1-0 in favor of the Stormhawks, but Hopkins Park gets the equalizer from Rowan Jansen to make it 1-1 here on the nice finish. Less than 2 minutes later, this shot from the point gets deflected in front by Ava Stewart. Stormhawks regain the lead, now up 2-1 after that deflection goal. Not long after that, delayed penalty coming to Chaska Chanhassen, and Avery Shaw takes advantage. She finds the back of the net. That equalizes this game up at 2-1. 2-2. Did I mention we're still in the first period here? Sophia Hoffman gets a goal for Hopkins Park. They lead 3-2 after a wild 5-goal first period. Finally into the second now, Chaska Chanhassen's Paige Sommerfeld gets the breakaway. Terrific finish to beat the goaltender. 3-3 game. This game would require extra time to determine a winner. And here's the shot from Addison Mock. The Chaska Chan Stormhawks get their first win of the year. They are officially off the schneid here to begin the season. Hopkins Park sees their 4-game win streak snap.
The Ponies and the Red Knights from the St. Louis Park Rec Center. We picked this up in the first period with Lulu Rusinski. She steals the puck and finishes it off. BSM leads 1-0 into the second. Early in the second period then, and this is Annie Juckness, shorthanded, cashes in a rebound off the shot from Kendall Hassler. BSM leads 2-0, but Stillwater would fight back just a little bit later. This is a great feed. Josie St. Martin fans on the shot, but it comes to the point with Alexa March, who feeds it to the back door, and Maya Kruger cuts the Ponies' deficit in half. We take it late into the second period, though. Puck will end up with Ellie Stewart in the high slot. She snaps it high glove. Great shot there by Ellie Stewart. 3-1 Red Knights heading into the third. But the Ponies would have a comeback in them here. Off the dot, it's one back to the point, and Josie Lang walks the blue line. That's through traffic. Goaltender didn't see it until late. Cuts it to a 1-goal game. And then just a couple minutes later, this is the Ponies on the power play. Brooke Nelson at the back door with the finish. Stillwater all the way back to tie it at 3. We go late into the third now. Still 3-3 in a tie game. Actually, yeah, you see the puck stolen there at the blue line, and now they're on the rush. Great move by Ella Pasqua. She takes it in, and eventually the puck ends up out front. Here on the rebound, Lulu Rusinski buries her second, and that would be the game winner. Red Knights 4-3 over the Ponies, and BSM has now won 5 in a row since their opening loss.
We go now to the Suburban East, Woodbury and Eastridge in a crosstown rivalry. Both teams already with 6 wins on the young season. We picked this one up late in the second. Still scoreless. The Royals think they have scored, but it is waved off by the official. A tough break there for the Royals. We go deep into the third now. Still scoreless. And off the rebound, Natalie Meter gives her team a huge 1-0 lead in the third with just 3 minutes remaining on the clock. That would be the only goal of this game as the Royals get a huge win, handing Eastridge their first loss on the young season.
Out to the Plymouth Ice Center, it's Champlain Park Coon Rapids taking on Wayzata. We picked this up early in the first period, and Sydney Bernovic, well, look at that shot there, just a minute 8 in, puts it top shelf to put Champlain Park Coon Rapids up 1-0. Then later in the first, that one just trickles through. Kylie Oswegen with the finish, and it's 2-0. Late first period, though, 2-1 now. And look at that shot from the perimeter. Davey Mokelke with the finish. Wayzata all the way back to tie it at 2. But then in the second, Champlain Park Coon Rapids is on top, and they go up by 2 here. Rebound off the post. Oswegen on the power play makes it 4-2. Then again later in the second, already 5-2, Cam Singh buries that one to make it 6-2. And finishing off a 5-goal second period for CPCR Brooklyn Johnson on the power play. They run away with this one and win 7-2 over the Trojans.
Now we go to Rosemont for Hockey Night in Minnesota. Matinee edition. Hockey Fights Cancer Day as well in this South Suburban tilt. Deep into the second period here, still scoreless. Long stretch pass connects with Gracie Hansen, and she buries it to break the ice. The Lakeville North Panthers go up 1-0 here late in the second. Just over 2 minutes, though, later, Lakeville North not done yet scoring in the period. Addison Bowlby, the Sacred Heart commit, gets the goal, and the Panthers get some much-needed insurance as they go up 2-0. Rosemont desperately trying to tie the game late in the third, but nothing doing. The Panthers would add an empty netter. Great game by Addison Ottinger, the cousin of NHL goaltender Jake Ottinger.
Lake Conference battle, first meeting of the season between Minnetonka and Edina. We picked this one up in the second period with a big save by Uma Corniea. Edina clears their lines and keep this scoreless. But then later in the second, Ellie Zakrashek gets it in the slot off the feed from Molly Ryan and beats Cornier to make it 1-0 in favor of Tonka. Later in the second, Hannah Halverson through traffic, through a screen. That one sneaks through, and Halverson on the power play ties it at 1. But early third period, Uma might want that one back. Kendra Distad with the goal, and Tonka takes a 2-1 lead. Then later into the third, what a move there by Ava Lindsay. Wow, and the powerful wrist shot for the finish. Tonka leading this one 3-1. It's 4-1 late into the third when Kate McCoy gets a goal, 15 seconds to go. Cuts the deficit to 4-2, but that's how it would finish. Skippers pick up a huge win in the Lake Conference to move to 7-1, and we will be back in just a few moments with our SCSU Player Spotlight.
They say good things come to those who wait. But greatness, that's a different beast. It doesn't come when it's called. It won't wander up to those who do nothing. You have to bait it with the sweat you leave on the ice. You gotta push through the pain, smile through every ache, and suffer every shift. You gotta chase it. All in the name of the game you love. Because greatness comes to those who take it.
Behind every world-class athlete, there's a team who takes extra care to support them. At Affinity Plus, we take extra care with all your banking goals, from checking accounts to credit cards. Our biggest victory? Helping you win in the ways that matter most. Affinity Plus.
Welcome back to Inside the Bubble. On this week's SCSU Player Spotlight, we had a chance to catch up with Edina goaltender Uma Corniea. Her full name, Uma Lena, means bright light, and she is certainly a bright light to not only her teammates but also her community. She volunteers at her church and also leads a unified PE class that integrates special needs students with mainstream students, and along with her Edina High School teammates, volunteers with the Hendrickson Foundation as well. Uma is the embodiment of what the SCSU Player Spotlight is all about. Let's head out to Braemar for the story.
Uma is the type of person, generally speaking, that you want on your team. From a coach's perspective, she gives you everything you could possibly ask for. She comes to the rink ready to work hard and get better every single day.
I genuinely enjoy playing hockey. It is like my safe place. I just absolutely love being out on the ice, especially with people that I really enjoy. And it's just a really fun sport. So when I get to do it with my best friends, it's really special.
She has a smile on her face consistently, even in the biggest of games. It's always on her face, which just everyone loves, and it obviously trickles down to the rest of the team.
I think I try to take each year as a new challenge. I try to find the good and in each year. Like I said, they're all different, but there are little nuances that change with each team. So I think if I can enjoy those to their fullest potential, then they usually turn out pretty well.
She gives us an opportunity to win every single game, which is huge. This year we're a little bit younger, but against the big teams we're just right up there because we know we've got her in the backstop, and that allows us to focus on the defensive zone and moving the puck and getting the puck out rather than like, okay, we got to make sure we're protecting the house so that any shot could be a little risky. It's not the case with Uma. We know that she's gonna come up big for us in big opportunities and big games, and so that just gives us a really big sense of security. And then we can focus on the fun stuff, putting pucks in the back of the net and everything like that. We tell our girls, let her do her job, you guys do your job, and hopefully it'll give us a chance to win.
When I was in U8, I believe, I didn't like the other team scoring. I didn't like that they got excited, and I didn't like to lose. So I was like, you know what, if the other team can't score, you can't really lose. So I decided to take up goalie.
She works her butt off day in and day out in school, at the rink. Obviously she's going to Princeton. That's a huge accomplishment in and of itself. But all in all, she's just a great kid. Really easy to get along with. Again, I've never heard a bad thing about her, and that makes our job a lot easier. When our culture is good and our kids are great kids, that's all we can hope for.
Well, for me, education is a really big part of life, and that's kind of a big priority in my family. So obviously, if I can get the opportunity to play at an Ivy League, which school I would not normally be able to get into, I definitely want to use that to my advantage. And I really, really love KARE. She's the head coach there, and she makes it feel like home. Nora Ratu has been a big inspiration for me. The number 41 comes from her. She played at the U of M when I was little, and I loved going to watch her, and she just kind of inspired me to be my best.
I love it. I mean, anytime these kids get to go play college hockey, whether it's D1 or D3, it's just a proud moment for me as a coach to watch them go achieve their dream. She set her mind to it and she made it happen. She committed as a freshman, which obviously, before the rule change was allowed, but every school in the country wanted her. And she chose an academically strong school, which I think is so smart to do, as female athletes. There is the NWHL, but there's not the big NHL to play for. And so these girls, weigh everything, and Princeton has made a name for themselves as a hockey program. They've taken it to my alma mater a couple times here. We obviously have the Keel sisters there right now, which will be fun to have all three of them in the same program, and I'll be their biggest fan.
Video? Who wants to go? Yeah!
What a great story out at Braemar. In addition to everything in the community, Uma also doubles as the lacrosse goaltender for Edina High School. And in the fall, she volunteers her time as a soccer manager with the boys' soccer program. I have no idea where she gets all this time, but Uma definitely embodies the SCSU player spotlight. Footnote as well, when Pete and I were out at practice on Thursday, we did not see a single teammate score on Uma. She's that good as a goaltender. We'll be back with the Coach's Corner in just a moment.
Well, anytime you get the chance to catch up with legendary Benilde St. Margaret's boys hockey coach Ken Pauly, it's sure to be an exciting time, and that's who we have this week for our Coach's Corner with our very own Pete Wagner. He headed out to the St. Louis Park Rec Center to catch up with Ken Pauly, who is now in his 30th season with the Red Knights. Let's go out and take a look.
When you look back over your coaching career, what stands out to you as the one thing you can look back at on an overview that you would tell a new coach today, this is why you do it?
Okay, it sounds canned, it sounds cliche-ish, but it is about relationships. End of the story. That's it. It is about. I'm still that very first team I coached at 25 years of age, those guys are my friends. All right, and I'm as close to those guys as I am to anyone that I've coached, and that's the things. Like even the other night we lost, and I have Grant Bessie in here and T.J. Moore, and and Pat Steinhauser in here, and it's like they never left, and they've been gone for 10 plus years, and some of those guys have won state titles, some have state tours, some have lost in Section 7. In the end, it really doesn't matter. That 91 team I had, we got beat in the quarterfinals, we got upset, but those guys are forever, and those relationships are forever. And so at the end of the day, you're dang right, you want to win, you want to do all those things, but that's the one thing I would tell anyone starting out. It's like, it better be about something larger. The game's a wonderful game, there's a lot of great things about it, but it better be about something more than that, or you won't last long, and I don't think you'll get any depth out of your experience.
If you were to pick a style of play that you love to coach the most, I know what it is, but for the viewers, what is it?
Well, I like the skill game. I like a lot of passing. I like a lot of passing and skating and creativity. And I like go hockey. And sometimes I like go hockey to a fault, because once you get in section playoffs, it's not what it is. And so what you have to and we've been able to do it, successfully, and we've kind of come up short sometimes as well. But to me, that's the most fun way to play, and I also think it's the best. I think it's the best way to play the game. I think it's a fun way to play the game. I think developmentally for these kids at 15, 16, 17, I think it's the best for them as well.
Your coaching staff, you've always been surrounded by great people. Can you talk a little deeper about the importance of that and what you lean on them for?
You don't have longevity without a great staff, all right? And any person who thinks they're a one-man show, it's just not going to happen. And one thing that was striking, I've read a couple very good biographies on Willard Eichela, and Ike is always he's such a gracious man, but he's very quick to give credit to his assistants and Eddie Zins and people who helped him at Edina. And even his book, he said, boy, we wouldn't have success without Bart Larson, or we wouldn't have success without Bob O'Connor. I mean, and that's the same thing. It's the same thing here. It's like, I've been here 3 decades, and we would not, basically, I think we've built something pretty special here, and we wouldn't have done that without, without Jack Blatherwick or Jason Ginsbach, who was my assistant the first couple years, or basically, or Paul Aspie, and now John Russo, and I got a good young coach in Casey Michaela, and these guys put a goalie coach Grant Hall. I mean, you get really good people around you, and I think that's one thing in terms of like kind of going full circle here in terms of how the game's changed. The more people you have around, that's more touch points for kids too.
Right.
And you get good people with you, and I think the very most successful programs, we shouldn't talk so much about successful head coaches. We should be talking about successful coaching staffs. Because if I was by myself, I mean, I've got Chris McGowan who's been doing JV for me for like nearly 2 decades. You can't take that stuff for granted.
Back here on Inside the Bubble, it's time now to take a look at our KARE 11 Top 11 for the upcoming week. We're going to start on the girls AA side of things today. And Brandon, a very similar ranking to last week. Pretty much the top 10 stays entirely the same, as most teams took care of business. Edina did have that 1 loss to Minnetonka, but not enough to move them out of number 4. And we get a newcomer in the Lakeville South Cougars.
Yeah, as you said, I think Edina's loss at number 4 might be the only loss in the top 11 this week, and it was against the team directly ahead of them, so they stay stationed. And then a newcomer at number 11, Lakeville South's been doing the job so far through the South Suburban Conference. They will play their crosstown rivals Lakeville North this week. That might be a playoff for number 11 in next week's rankings. You'll have to tune in to see. Let's take a look at Single A.
We will take a look at Single A indeed, and a pretty similar story here. Our rankings committee didn't have to do a whole lot in the top 7 there, as that all stays the same, including Warroad at number 1, and Moose Lake up to number 8, Delano Rockford up to 9, Mankato East with a win over Laverne, so they go up to 10. Laverne stays in at number 11, but again, very similar here on the girls' side of things in Class A. But it's setting up for a couple interesting matchups next week, Brandon, including Holy Angels Orono at a battle of 2 and 3.
Yeah, that is a very interesting one. And Holy Angels and Crookston both picked up a loss this week to War Road, so they're not going to be punished for that. Proctor Hermantown and Orono tied on Saturday, so they remain stationed. The only result that really affected anything was Mankato East over Laverne. Laverne falls from 7 to 11, and the other 3 teams are bumped up as a result. And over in boys Class AA, we have a new number 1 team this week, and here is why.
They'll play this to an open slot or top area, the top of the slot. That's going to be Eulenkamp down now. In front. Score! Oh, what a play there! Now backing across the line, behind the back, and that's knocked away from the slot. Lunsky, oh, he's got Burrows. Oh, he couldn't get it there as that hit Bosch. Now it's Burrows, gets it back, walks, holds, backhand, score! Oh, they got it there. It didn't look like they were going to get it through that neutral zone, and they did. Now it's going to be Gary. That's turned over at the line. Biskin, smooth defenseman there. That hops the stick of Lunsky. Big carom there. Foot race, look out. To the forehand. Oh, score! Lee just stayed with that puck. Did not give up on it. He missed his glove, but 2-1 lead. 7 seconds. The countdown is on for the Storm fans as that's going to be handled, and they're going to silly right now with their fans. They pick up an
Well, for the very first time in program history in our MNHockey.tv power rankings, the Rogers Royals are the number 1 team in boys Class AA. They are 5-0 on the season. And goodness gracious, a lot of movement here as Rogers, again, 5-0, but Wayzata also 5-0. They stay at number 2. Chanhassen making a big jump from 7 to 3. Tonka goes from 1 to 4. But again, Brandon, a lot of movement, and we get Maple Grove back in the rankings after a 1-week absent, and Holy Family Catholic debuting as well.
Yeah, good for Rogers and good for that program. Last year, they really kind of arrived on the scene, got so close to their first state tournament. Now they're at number 1, and I'd say expectations are that they want to get there as well. But they have to put that number 1 ranking on the line right away this week against Minnetonka. In addition, I'd have to imagine this is Chanhassen's highest ranking as a program as well. And Grand Rapids up to 6. Their only loss came against Warroad, who we will obviously see in the Class A rankings. They fall in overtime, so the Thunderhawks playing some really solid defense to start the season.
They've been off to a good start indeed. We'll go now to the boys Class A side of things here. And as you mentioned, Warroad, they are number 1 this week after Hermantown had maybe a bit of a surprising tie to Centennial, but Centennial not a bad team by any means as they get the tie against Hermantown. So that knocks them down to number 2. Warroad goes to number 1. Mahtomedi stays the same. Orono, they had a scare against New Prague, who debuts this week at 2-1, but they took care of business in overtime. And again, some movement here amongst the top 7 and a couple of newcomers as well. Fitting that our 2 new teams have new in their name.
It is, isn't it? Yeah, and you said New Prague with a great game against Orono. Providence had a great start to the week, but they falter against Hutchinson to fall a couple spots. That propels East Grand Forks. And how about Two Rivers there at number 6? They already have 6 wins. That's the most I see of anybody on the board. So Two Rivers earning their spot in the top 6.
It's time now to take a look at our top 5 upcoming network games of the week for both the boys and the girls side of things. We're going to start with the girls side on Tuesday night. Brandon, we've got a couple of really good showdowns one in the West Metro and one in the East Metro. Benilde St. Margaret's Holy Family, Stillwater Eastridge, but of course later in the week, a lot of good games as well.
Yeah, Benilde St. Margaret's at Holy Family, 7 p.m. on Tuesday night. Should be a really good one. 2 young teams that are really picking up their stride as we go into the season. Stillwater and Eastridge, both off to really good starts as well. Then on Thursday night, Duluth Marshall at Proctor Hermantown. A little bit of a bragging rights battle up in the Duluth area. Hill Murray takes on Minnetonka out at Pagel on Saturday. And then we wrap it up with Edina at Maple Grove. Crimson are undefeated at the moment. We'll see if the Hornets can change that next Saturday. And now we take a look at the top boys games of the week with a heavy emphasis on next weekend. We have a couple games from the Edina Holiday Classic highlighting things, Matt.
We do indeed. Grand Rapids at Edina. Of course, the late start to follow the 6 p.m. game on Thursday, and that should always be a fun one. Bemidji Buffalo, also a very intriguing matchup. Wayzata, Andover, the Huskies trying to get back on track after a little bit of a rough start to their season, going against a very good Wayzata team. Rogers, Minnetonka, boy, that's going to be a fun one at the Pagel Activity Center as well. And of course, you have to end with a classic late conference rivalry between Edina and Eden Prairie. Whenever those two teams meet, always a lot of fun. And looking forward to seeing what we get here this week between these teams.
And of course, we have to say, will that actually be an 8:30 start, or is it going to be closer to 9?
Oh, that's a good question because, typically it's about 8:45 puck drop, I would say. They listed as 8 p.m. on the Legacy Hockey, so I'm not sure if that's going to stick. But, yeah, it'll be a late one for sure.
For this week's KARE 11 Boys Hockey Night in Minnesota Game of the Week, we head west on Highway 12 out to Delano, and Litchfield-Dassel-Cokato will make the trek east on the Highway 12 corridor. Matt, should be a good one in the Wright County Conference.
Yeah, always exciting when these two teams get together, Brandon. And Delano, of course, has been a Class A power in recent years. Not off to the best start this year, but plenty of time to turn it around. Of course, the Dragons of Litchfield-Dassel-Cokato, always a pesky team to play against. Well, for our Hockey Night in Minnesota girls game of the week, we are heading up north to Brainerd-Little Falls for a Section 8 AA matchup between the Alexandria Cardinals and the Brainerd-Little Falls Warriors. And Brandon, these two teams already played each other once a year, and it was about as even as you could ask for.
It sure was. They played to a 3-3 tie back in November about 3 weeks ago. Shots were even as well, so this is a huge game between two of the contending teams in Section 8 AA.
Well, make sure to check out the Overtime podcast here on the MNHockey.tv network. This week, we are joined by Benilde St. Margaret's boys head coach Ken Pauly, as well as Rosemont boys head coach Ricky Sainty Jr. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and 11 other podcast hosting networks. Check it out for all things high school hockey.
As always, you can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at MNHockey.tv. Tune in for the latest. We will post our KARE 11 rankings and join in some lively discussion on there if you'd like. So, Matt, another great week of hockey. As we mentioned off the top of the show, we're really rolling now in between Thanksgiving and Christmas, and we got big games coming up this week.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, we got holiday tournament season starting this week as well with the Edina Holiday Classic on the boys' side. The following week, we're going to have the Walser tournament on the girls' side. So things are really ramping up, and it's a great time to be a high school hockey fan in the state of Minnesota.
Well, absolutely. Well, for Matt Harrington, I'm Brandon Spratt. Thank you for joining us this week on Inside the Bubble. We'll be back next Sunday night with more high school hockey action. Take care, everyone.